It started with a bargain. The kind you don't question until it's far too late. Ethan and Claire had been looking for months, a house away from the noise of the city, a place where they could finally start over. When the real estate agent showed them the old farmhouse on the outskirts of Maple Hollow, it felt perfect. A sprawling two-story house surrounded by whispering trees and fields that swayed like waves in the wind. It was beautiful, but lonely, like it had been waiting for someone to come back. And it was cheap. Too cheap. Are there any issues we should know about? Claire had asked. The agent hesitated for a second too long before smiling. Nothing major, she said. Just old bones. Houses like these always creak. They moved in that same week. The air smelled faintly of dust and rain-soaked wood. Each step echoed through the halls like the house was listening. At first, everything was fine. They unpacked boxes, explored each room, laughed about the weirdly patterned wallpaper. But on the second night, Claire woke up to a sound. A whisper. She thought it was the wind sneaking through the cracks in the old window. But when she sat up and listened closely, she realized, the sound wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the wall. A low murmur, so faint, it could almost be mistaken for breathing. She nudged Ethan awake. Do you hear that? She whispered. He groaned, half asleep. It's an old house, babe. Go back to sleep. But Claire couldn't. Not after hearing the voice again. A child's voice. Soft. Whimpering. Please don't open the door. Her heart froze. She turned on the bedside lamp, nothing. Just peeling wallpaper and shadows. She didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, Claire tried to brush it off. Old houses settle, she told herself. They breathe. They remember. Ethan was already up, fixing a creaky step in the hallway. You look pale, he said. Bad dreams? She hesitated, then nodded. Something like that. By afternoon, they were exploring the upper floor. The layout was odd, 3 bedrooms on one side, a narrow hallway leading to the other wing. But something didn't add up. The agent said there were 4 bedrooms, Ethan said, checking the floor plan again. They found only 3. According to the blueprint, there should have been a door where the hallway wall ended. But there was nothing, just smooth plaster. Ethan frowned. Maybe it was sealed up. Claire ran her hand across the wall. Cold. Solid. Why would someone seal off a room? He shrugged. Probably for storage or safety. Who knows? That night, the whispers came back. Louder this time. And this time, Ethan heard them too. They sat up in bed, the air around them still and heavy. Did you? Yeah, Ethan cut her off, his eyes wide. The whisper came again, dragging softly across the walls like a breath made of dust. Please, don't let it out. Claire clutched the blanket. What does that mean? Ethan tried to sound calm, but his voice cracked. It's probably a pipe or air vent. He got up, grabbed a flashlight, and started tapping the walls. When he reached the far end of the hallway, something hollow echoed back. A hidden cavity. Claire joined him, holding the light steady. Ethan, the blueprint. The missing room, it's here. He nodded, pressing his ear against the wall. And that's when they heard it again, closer this time. A single, drawn-out whisper. Don't open it. Ethan stepped back. His skin crawled. It's just the wind, Claire. But she wasn't so sure anymore. The following day, Claire searched through the basement for any sign of an entrance, an old door, a trapdoor, anything. She found boxes filled with children's toys, a cracked doll, a tiny shoe, a faded book of nursery rhymes. Each object was covered in a fine layer of gray dust, untouched for years. Then she found something else, an old metal vent cover hanging loosely on the wall. She pried it off. Inside was a small iron key wrapped in yellowed paper. The note was barely legible, the ink smeared with time. But she could still make out a few words. Lock it again. Never open the room. Her stomach twisted. When Ethan came downstairs, she held out the key with trembling hands. Ethan, we need to leave. He looked at her like she was overreacting. It's just an old key, Claire. No. Someone hid it, for a reason. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You're letting this get to you. Tonight, I'll prove there's nothing there. Claire stared at him. How? He smiled faintly. We'll find the door. That night, the house felt different. Still. Expectant. Ethan brought a hammer, determined to break through the plaster wall. Claire stood behind him, clutching the flashlight, her knuckles white. He started tapping along the wall again until the sound changed, hollow, like striking a drum. He swung harder, the plaster cracking open to reveal rotted wood beneath. And then, a faint outline of a door appeared. There was no handle. Only a small iron keyhole, rusted but intact. Ethan turned to Claire. She shook her head, whispering, "Please, don't." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out the old key. The air grew colder. The whisper came again, louder, urgent, trembling. Don't let it out. Ethan's hand froze inches from the keyhole. His breath fogged in the air, even though the heater was running. Do you hear that? He whispered. Claire nodded, tears in her eyes. It doesn't want us to open it. But something else, a faint scratching from the other side of the wall, made Ethan's curiosity overpower his fear. He turned the key. Click. The sound echoed through the hallway like a sigh. And then, silence. The whispers stopped. The scratching ceased. For a moment, everything was still. Ethan slowly placed his hand on the door. It's unlocked, he murmured. But, it's not moving. He pushed harder, but the door wouldn't budge, like something on the other side was holding it shut. Claire backed away. Let's stop. Please, Ethan, let's just stop. He looked at her, then at the door. Finally, he sighed, lowering his hand. Fine. Tomorrow, we'll call someone. Maybe there's mold or something behind it. They turned to leave. But as they walked down the hallway, the door behind them creaked. Just slightly. Enough for a thin line of darkness to appear between the frame and the wood. And from that gap, faintly, came a whisper. You shouldn't have found me. The whisper lingered in the hallway like smoke, curling around the edges of their fear. You shouldn't have found me. Claire froze. Ethan, did you hear that? He didn't answer right away. He was staring at the cracked door, the key still trembling in his hand. It's just the wind, he muttered. But his voice betrayed him. The air around them had changed, colder, heavier. The kind of cold that feels alive. They both stood there for what felt like an eternity before Ethan reached out and pushed the door gently. It creaked open, slow, stiff, as if the hinges hadn't moved in decades. Behind it was nothing but darkness. A thick, suffocating void that seemed to swallow the flashlight's beam whole. Ethan frowned. There's no floor, he whispered. He leaned forward, shining the light in. The beam finally caught something, a wooden floor, dust-covered and old, about 3 steps down. The air smelled stale. Like rot. And something else, sweet, almost metallic. Claire's voice cracked. Ethan, please. Don't go in there. He turned back to her, forcing a shaky smile. We've come this far. And before she could stop him, he stepped inside. The floor groaned under his weight. The light flickered as dust swirled in the air. Claire stayed at the doorway, gripping the frame. Every instinct screamed for her to pull him out. What do you see? she asked. He didn't answer. He was too busy staring. The room was small, maybe 10 feet across. Faded wallpaper peeled off the walls, revealing dark stains beneath. A single child's bed sat in the corner, covered with a moth-eaten blanket. On the wall opposite, a large mirror hung crooked, its surface blackened with age. And on the floor beneath it, a set of small, dusty footprints. Ethan crouched. They look like. He stopped mid-sentence as the light flickered again. The footprints weren't leading to the mirror. They were leading out of it. Claire couldn't take it anymore. Ethan, please come back. He turned toward her, and for a moment, she thought she saw something behind him. A shadow that wasn't his. It moved differently. Like it was lagging a second behind his motion. Ethan stepped backward toward the door, but before he could reach it, a sound filled the room, a faint humming. A lullaby. The kind of tune a mother might hum to a child. Only this one was broken. The notes twisted, warping into something wrong. Claire's flashlight began to flicker wildly. Ethan, she screamed. He spun around, pointing his light at the mirror. And in that instant, both of them saw it. A handprint appeared on the inside of the glass. Small. Child-sized. Then another. And another. Until the mirror looked like something was pressing from the other side, trying to claw its way out. The lullaby stopped. And a whisper filled the room. Don't let her out. Ethan stumbled backward. Her. But before he could finish, the light burst, plunging everything into total darkness. Claire's scream shattered the silence. She dropped her flashlight and ran forward, her hands flailing until she found Ethan's arm. Where's the door? She cried. I can't see, he shouted back. The darkness was so thick it felt solid, pressing against their skin, choking them with cold air. Then, something moved between them. Not a sound. Not a breath. Just movement, fast, gliding, cold. Claire felt it brush past her shoulder. Then she heard it. A voice, right next to her ear. You shouldn't have opened it. She screamed again, trying to find Ethan, but her hands met only air. Then, the flashlight flickered back to life for a split second. And in that flash, she saw him. Ethan, standing in front of the mirror, staring into it. His expression blank. His eyes glassy. And behind his reflection, something was staring back. A little girl. Her face pale, her mouth open in a silent scream, her eyes black as night. The glass rippled like water as her hand pressed against it. And then. Ethan was gone. The flashlight died again. Silence. Claire's breath came in quick, ragged bursts. Ethan, she whispered. Nothing. She stumbled toward where he'd been standing, her hands trembling until they met cold glass. The mirror. Her reflection stared back, wide-eyed, terrified. But then, her reflection blinked. She hadn't. Claire gasped and stumbled back, tripping over the dusty floorboards. She turned and bolted toward the open door, bursting into the hallway. The light returned instantly, warm and steady. As if the darkness had never existed. She turned back. The door was closed. And the key, the old iron key, lay on the floor in front of it. Hours passed before she could move again. She sat against the wall, shaking, her mind spinning. When she finally found the strength, she called Ethan's name again and again. No answer. The police came 2 hours later. They found her sitting on the floor, clutching the key, her face pale and blank. "Ma'am, are you all right?" one of them asked. She could barely speak. He's inside." They searched the house. Every room. Every hallway. But when they reached the sealed door, it was gone. No frame. No handle. Just smooth wall, as if no door had ever been there. They assumed Ethan had run away. Maybe an argument. Maybe a breakdown. But Claire knew better. Every night afterward, she heard the whispers again, louder now, clearer. Sometimes they sounded like the child's voice. Sometimes, like Ethan's. And always the same words. Lock it again. Never open the room. She couldn't take it. So one night, she went back to the wall where the door had been. She pressed her ear against it. And from the other side, came a faint tapping. Then a whisper. Soft. Familiar. Claire, help me. Tears filled her eyes. Ethan. Silence. Then the whisper again, quieter. It's cold in here. Her fingers brushed the old key in her pocket. Her heart pounded. She could almost hear him breathing. And then, just before the part of her mind that still feared the truth could stop her, she lifted the key. She pressed it against the wall. And this time, the wall wasn't solid. The plaster beneath her hand rippled, like water. Her breath hitched. The key began to sink in, vanishing into the wall as the whispers grew louder. Dozens of them now. Don't let it out. Don't let it out. Don't let it out. And somewhere beneath all those voices. Ethan's whisper again. Please, help me. The lights flickered. The air turned freezing. And the wall began to move, pushing outward, bulging like something was pressing from inside. A shape formed beneath the plaster. Small hands. A child's face. Claire screamed and stumbled backward, dropping the key. The wall went still. The whispers stopped. Only the faint sound of breathing remained. At sunrise, she packed her things and left. She never told anyone what happened that night. But neighbors said they sometimes saw her sitting in her car across the road, staring at the farmhouse for hours. And when the new owners moved in a few months later, they found something strange while repainting the upstairs hallway. A single key, lying on the floorboards. Cold to the touch. And carved faintly into the metal were 3 words. You found me. 3 months passed. The old farmhouse on the outskirts of Maple Hollow stood silent again, its windows dark, its halls heavy with dust and memory. Until someone else came. A young couple, Mason and Lily, just married, full of plans, full of dreams. The house was cheap, the land beautiful. The realtor smiled as she handed them the keys. Old place, she said, but strong bones. Just needs a little love. She didn't mention the previous owners. She didn't mention Ethan or Claire. She didn't mention the door that wasn't supposed to exist. From the first day, Lily loved the house. The smell of the wood, the open fields, the creaking stairs that sang when she walked. But Mason noticed things. The walls were colder upstairs. The floorboards near the hallway bent slightly, like something heavy had been dragged across them. And sometimes, at night, he swore he heard a voice whispering, soft, almost apologetic. Don't open it. He tried to laugh it off. Just the old pipes, he thought. Just the wind. But then one evening, while unpacking, he found something wedged between the floorboards. A key. Small. Iron. Cold. And etched faintly into the metal were the words. You found me. The next night, Mason couldn't sleep. Lily had dozed off beside him, her breathing slow and peaceful. But the house wasn't asleep. He could hear it, the faint hum of air moving through old vents, the soft creak of stairs settling. And beneath it all, a whisper. Please, don't let it out. He sat up. Lily. She didn't move. The whisper came again, this time from the hallway. He grabbed his phone for light and stepped out of the bedroom. The hallway stretched long and silent, shadows spilling from every corner. He followed the sound until he reached the far wall, where the blueprint claimed a fourth bedroom should have been. He pressed his palm against the plaster. Cold. Too cold. And for just a moment, it moved. He yanked his hand back, heart racing. What the hell? Then he saw it. A hairline crack running vertically down the wall. And at the base of it, a keyhole. In the morning, Mason showed Lily. She frowned. Maybe it's where they patched something up. Then why's there a keyhole, he asked. He held up the key he'd found. It fit perfectly, the same shape, the same size. Lily looked uneasy. Please don't. You don't know what's behind that wall. Mason laughed nervously. It's probably storage. But when he turned the key halfway, something clicked inside the wall, like a lock being undone after years of waiting. A soft gust of air escaped from the crack. It smelled wrong. Like dust and old perfume and something decayed. Lily stepped back. Mason, stop. He hesitated, then turned the key all the way. The wall groaned. The crack widened. And slowly, a hidden door appeared before them. A door that shouldn't exist. They stood frozen. The wood was black with age, splintered, the handle rusted beyond recognition. But beneath the grime, carved faintly into the surface, were words. Never open the room. Lily's hands shook. Please. Let's not. But Mason's curiosity, that same curiosity that had doomed Ethan, pushed him forward. He turned the handle. The door creaked open, and a wave of cold air swept out, chilling them both to the bone. Inside, the room looked wrong. The light from Mason's phone barely reached the far corner, but what it did reveal made Lily's stomach twist. A child's bed. A cracked doll sitting upright on the pillow. And above it, written across the wall in faded chalk. She's not gone. Lily covered her mouth. Mason, let's go. But he was staring at the mirror hanging crooked on the opposite wall. The same mirror Ethan had seen. Its surface was blackened, warped, but something shimmered inside it, like fog moving behind glass. He stepped closer. Hello. His reflection stared back. Then, behind it, something shifted. A shape. Small. Thin. Standing just over his shoulder. Lily screamed. Mason. He turned, nothing there. When he looked back at the mirror, his reflection was smiling. He wasn't. The mirror began to hum, a deep vibration that rattled the walls. The doll fell from the bed. The lights flickered. The whisper returned, a dozen voices layered into one. Don't let her out, don't let her out, don't let her out. Lily grabbed Mason's arm. We have to go. He didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the mirror. I can see her, he whispered. She's trapped. A little girl. Mason, please. She's crying, Lily. His voice trembled. She wants help. And before Lily could stop him, Mason reached out and touched the glass. The mirror rippled. His hand sank in, slowly, like it was sliding into water. He gasped, trying to pull back, but the glass clung to him. The reflection's smile widened. The whispers rose to a shriek. Don't let it out. The mirror cracked. A single fracture ran down the center. Then another. And another. Lily screamed as the crack spiderwebbed across the surface, and suddenly, the glass exploded outward, shards flying through the air. When she opened her eyes again, Mason was gone. The room fell silent. The whispers stopped. Only her heartbeat echoed in the emptiness. Tears streamed down her face as she stared at the shattered mirror. Among the broken pieces, she saw movement. A reflection, small, pale, and still. A little girl, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Her eyes were black. Her lips curved into a trembling smile. "Thank you," the girl whispered. And then, the lights went out. When Lily woke, she was lying in the hallway. The door was gone. The wall was smooth. She screamed for Mason until her throat gave out. But there was no answer. In the days that followed, she refused to enter the upstairs again. She slept downstairs, lights on, the key locked in a drawer. But she could still hear him. Every night, around 3 a.m., Mason's voice echoed softly through the vents. Sometimes calm. Sometimes desperate. Always saying the same thing. "It's cold in here. Don't open the room." Weeks later, the police came again. Another disappearance. Another story buried under paperwork. They searched the house, found nothing unusual, until one officer noticed a faint drawing on the upstairs wall. A child's drawing. 2 stick figures holding hands. Beside them, written in chalk. "Now we can play forever." The farmhouse was eventually sealed off. The town called it cursed. And over time, the whispers faded, until no one remembered who Ethan, Claire, Mason, or Lily had been. But sometimes, on quiet nights, when the wind moves through Maple Hollow just right, people say they hear it again, faintly, like the house itself is breathing. A soft whisper carried through the trees. "You found me." And if you ever find yourself near that farmhouse, if you ever see the door that shouldn't be there, whatever you do, don't open it.